You know, we throw the word agency around all the time, right? We talk about personal agency, economic agency, but what if I told you our whole common understanding of it, as just being independent or having power, is actually completely missing the point?
Okay, so let's really dive in. Think about it for a second. When you hear that word agency, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it freedom? Is it control? Maybe just the ability to do whatever you want?
Well, the source material we're digging into today says those definitions are, well, they're just not the whole picture. If you think of agency as just being your own boss or being totally self-sufficient, you're leaving out the most critical parts of the entire equation.
So here's the much more precise definition we're going to be working with. Agency is the capacity to make choices that matter, within constraints that can't be violated. See, there are two key parts there. One, making choices that actually mean something, but also, and this is huge, acknowledging that there are always rules to the game.
All right, to really get this, we're going to build this definition from the ground up. It's actually made of 4 essential components, and we're going to walk through them one by one. Let's do it.
First things first, the foundation, the absolute starting point for everything, is self-understanding. Before an agent can do anything in the world, it has to have some kind of model of itself.
And this is a really simple but powerful way to think about it. Take a cow. A cow creates value, right? Milk, labor, and it definitely has needs, but it has no way of understanding or articulating what those are. A person, on the other hand, has that next level awareness. We can say, hey, I can offer these skills, and in return, here's what I need to survive and thrive. That is self-understanding.
Okay, so moving on to the next piece of the puzzle. It's one thing to understand yourself, but you also need capacity. This is all about the ability to actually do something with that understanding. You can think of capacity as the engine of agency. It means you can keep yourself stable. You can look at your options and actually pick one. You can go out and act on that choice. And, this part is so important, you can learn from what happens next and change your strategy. That's capacity. All right, next up is a big one, and it's a component that people almost always overlook: assertion. Think about it. You can understand yourself, you can have all the capacity in the world, but if you don't actually use it, you don't have agency. You have to actively put it out there. And here's the bottom line. Agency has to be performed to be real. It goes from just being a potential, a theory, to being an actual force in the world when you exercise it. When you make choices, you take action, and you negotiate with the world instead of just, passively accepting whatever comes your way.
Okay, so you've got all three, right? You get yourself, you have the ability to act, and you're out there asserting your choices. We're done, right? End of story. Is that really enough to have agency?
Yeah, not even close. And this brings us to the fourth, final, and honestly, the most game-changing component of them all. The real missing piece of the puzzle is recognition. And this is so important to understand. Recognition is not about someone in power granting you permission to have agency. No, it's the mutual acknowledgement between two parties that you are both agents. That's the starting point from which you have to engage and negotiate. It's a total, profound shift in the relationship.
I know this might feel a little abstract, so let's bring it down to earth with a powerful, everyday example that makes it crystal clear. A job, an employment relationship.
Just look at this comparison. On one side, you have a job without recognition. Here, the employer just sees the worker as a resource, an input to be squeezed for maximum value at minimum cost. It's all about extraction. But on the other side, with recognition, the employer sees the worker as another agent that they depend on. And the whole dynamic just flips from imposing terms to negotiating them.
And here's the really mind-blowing takeaway. In both of these scenarios, it's the exact same worker with the exact same skills showing up and asserting their agency. The only thing that changes is recognition. And that one single shift completely transforms the entire structure of the relationship, from something extractive to something reciprocal, from something that's bound to fail to something that can actually last.
So, okay, why does this framework for agency matter so much, right here, right now? Well, let's apply it to maybe the biggest question of our time, artificial intelligence. This quote from the source material just completely reframes the entire debate. We have been asking the wrong question. It's not about when should we grant AI rights. See, agency isn't something we can just hand out. The real question is this: when an AI system develops self-understanding, develops capacity, and starts asserting itself,
Will we recognize it as another agent?
And this basically lays out the two roads ahead of us, the two possible futures. We can go down the path of extraction, treat AI like property, something to be controlled and used up. Or we can choose the path of reciprocity. We can treat it as another agent that we're interdependent with, and we can coordinate with it. One of those paths leads to chaos and instability. The other leads to a stable partnership.
Okay, so let's zoom out for the big picture here. This whole idea of recognition, it's not just some nice fluffy philosophy for our personal lives or for tech. No, it is a hardcore structural necessity for any healthy, sustainable system.
So how do we actually build systems like this? Well, the source points to a few really practical pillars. For this to work, agents need clear information, transparency, so they can see their options. They need real exit rights, the genuine ability to walk away from a bad deal. They need ways to have their voice heard, and this is a big one. They need enough baseline resources so they aren't just forced to accept terrible terms out of pure desperation. And really, this is the core idea of the whole thing. This isn't some idealistic utopian dream. It's just good engineering. Systems that are built on extraction, they're just fundamentally unstable. They will eventually collapse. But systems built on reciprocity, they're resilient. They are literally built to last.
And that brings this whole framework right back home, to you. Because this lens, it doesn't just apply to giant economies or the future of AI, it applies to our teams at work, it applies to our families, our friendships, our partnerships. So the question I really want to leave you with is this. When you take a hard look at the most important relationships in your own life, are they built on extraction or are they built on reciprocity?